I am Joanna Hodorowska, Nutrition in Motion. Basically what I do, I'm a sports nutritionist. I've done triathlon for 27 years. I've done probably less marathons than you guys all have done together. But I have done made a lot of the errors that you have had. And I've done a lot of the things incorrectly, and that was all before I became a nutritionist. But by me getting sick, I actually learned how to start fueling my body better and start fueling my sport and fueling my body with the things it needs so that it can go longer, so it can recover faster, so you can run faster and be stronger and not have the GI issues, the cramping, or fatigue. So what I want to talk to you today about is a little bit more about what to do and what to start paying attention to. I did bring some handouts for you so that you can kind of learn more about the things that I didn't talk about and touch upon in terms of fueling for your run. I do a lot of work with triathletes, with runners, beginner runners, ones that have been running for several years, and they're just, getting to that point of, you know what, I thought that at 18 miles it's supposed to be hard, but or maybe it's because I'm just getting old. But none of that actually is true. It's really the reason why it's hard is because you're not hydrating properly, or you're not fueling yourself properly. You're either taking in too many calories, the wrong kind of calories, or I have one client where, oh, I get it now. I guess I'm not supposed to wait till I'm 10, 12 miles into it, or an hour and a half or 2 hours into it, to start thinking about drinking something or eating something. So it's a little bit of all those things combined that if you do it right, you can be like one of my clients that said, this ultra stuff's really fun and exciting after he ran 34 miles, So that's something where I want you to be in that place of, I think this is fun and exciting, as opposed to, I got another mile. Do you think I can make it to the next mile so that I could, get to the next aid station or the next speed zone, So it's trying to get you past those things so that you can kind of just start putting the pieces together. But if you can't put the pieces together by doing it yourself, I can speed up the process to put those puzzle pieces together for you on what's missing in your nutrition plan so that you can be feeling great from the mile 1 to mile 31 or 81 or 101, depending on how far you're going to be running. So if you have any questions during this talk, and I'm going to try to keep it a little bit short, then just go ahead and raise your hand and ask the questions, and I will answer it as well as I can. So one of the things, do you have any specific question, anybody, in terms of what you want me to cover tonight? Anybody have a specific issue? Oh, good. Nobody has a specific issue. Good. So I'm just going to give you a general idea of, don't wait till the week before your race to think about what you're going to be eating, when you're going to be, what you're going to be drinking, how much, and what combination. That's something that you want to be thinking about, when you're probably somewhere between the 6 to 10 mile mark, and definitely before you get to beyond those distances into the longer training sessions. Don't wait till that week before. Part of your training is also trying to figure out, well, what am I supposed to do the week before, the day before, the morning of, and what's going to sit well in my stomach and what's not. That's what part of your training is supposed to be, not just what's going to be the distance that I'm going to be training for. Can I increase it 2 miles every week? It's also, how am I going to fuel myself? How am I feeling an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours after my long training session? Am I feeling depleted? Are my legs cramping up? Am I starting to feel nauseous? Am I getting a headache? Those are signs of dehydration, so that means you haven't fueled right in the terms of getting the right electrolytes in and the right amount of fluids in. There is a simple remedy for that. And sometimes it's just drinking more water, but a lot of times it's actually eating more salt and taking in more salty foods and more green vegetables to get more of the minerals in as well. Hi, Christina. One of my fan clubs. I'm kidding. But if you're having fatigue or you're starving for the whole day, and you feel like the bottomless pit, then it's probably something with the recovery meal and with not balancing that blood sugar really well, that you're basically going to be hungry for 2 days following that longer run. So that's something that I work with clients, and nobody ever believes me when I said, if we just work on, managing breakfast and some meals a little bit more evenly through the day and making a more balance with between the carbohydrates, protein, and fats and vegetables, that'll make that endless hunger go away. What I remember years ago when I was I think I ran 18 miles and then met a client for breakfast, and he's like, "That's all you're eating?" I'm like, "That's all I need to eat." He's like, "Yeah, I'd be like voraciously hungry for the next 3 days if I ran 18 miles like you did." And it's like, well, but what I do is trying to help you learn how much is the right amount for you and what combination of those foods is the right amount for you. Everybody's going to have a different combination. For some people, they can do wheat and it works just fine. For other people, wheat just gives them gas, bloating, headaches, all sorts of GI distress. So that's not a great carbohydrate to choose. Others do better on potatoes, like me. I do better on potatoes, and sometimes I'll do beets, but I just love organic potatoes, and I can put butter on it, I can put it on the side, I can eat it as a snack as part of a meal, but that's my main carbohydrate, and dark chocolate, but we won't count that one. That's not supposed to be really part of the macronutrients, but in all honesty, I do include it because I like it. So every day is a cheat day, right? But it's trying to balance it all out so that if you're just craving chocolate all day, if you're just craving, carbs all day, that's actually triggering your body to burn sugar, and you're going to need more calories during your run. It's going to cause you to be more hungry during the day, because as you spike the blood sugar, that blood sugar level drops, and then you're tired, cranky, and irritable, and craving all those carbohydrates all over again. And then the next thing that gets triggered is the guilt and like, I can't believe I can't stay on a regular plan because I'm constantly hungry, and I can't fit into my clothes even though I'm running this much. I shouldn't be having this extra weight. I'm actually gaining weight. These are all issues with mismanaging that blood sugar. And that's part of being able to fuel for your run, is if you can manage that blood sugar level better, you can actually start burning fat for fuel instead of sugar for fuel. The more of those carbohydrates you eat during the day, the more you're going to be burning the sugar and needing more calories to take in. In terms of calories to take in during your run, generally speaking, it's about 150 calories, maybe up to 200. Depending on the size of the person, but generally speaking, it's 100 to 150 to 200 calories. Some people might be able to get away with 250 calories per hour. But again, don't wait till an hour and a half or 2 hours into it if you're doing a 3-hour run. You want to start doing a little bit every 20-30 minutes, even in that first half hour, just to kind of top off the tank. I mean, if you think about a car, you're going to go long distance, right? You're going from here to, I'm going to just pick Minneapolis. So you're going to drive to Minneapolis. That's what, I don't know, 800 miles, 900? A lot. So are you going to go on a partially empty tank and just see how far you can go? No, you're going to plan ahead and say, okay, I'm going to get this far, and before the tank runs out of gas, I'm going to put more fuel into it, and I'm going to top it off a little bit more to keep going. So you want to start thinking about fueling that way, that you don't want to wait till you're at fumes to be able to start putting things in, because once you're behind the 8 ball, it's really hard to kind of make up for it. You can make up for that fatigue and the bonking, as known in running, for bonking, but it could take you 20-30 minutes and be eating every 10 minutes, trying to get some of those high calorie foods in, so that the body starts to recover and feel normal again. Does that make sense? So you want to start thinking about what is it that you're going to be taking with you on your run. I happen to be right in front of a whole bunch of ready-made products. So these are some of the options that you have. When these things first came out, Cliff Shot blocks, and these are anything that's gummy. I was like, really? Why would somebody want candy? I mean, that's ridiculous. But the thing is that these because you're really kind of chewing on them and sucking on them. So it takes a really quite a long time for one of these to be eaten. It's not like you can chew it and swallow it in 15 seconds and you're done. It's more like it'll take you 15 minutes to get one of these things down. So then it ends up being a slow release of calories into the system. So you can use anything like the shot blocks or some of those other gummy kinds of foods. I'm sure somebody probably wants Swedish fish as part of their, take the fish with you.
I do eat Jolly Ranchers just because it gives that long lasting.
Yeah, so Jolly Ranchers, I mean, for some people that works, I think I would probably choke on a Jolly Rancher though. That would be my problem. With running, I'd probably choke on the darn thing and then that would be a whole entirely different problem.
How many calories is a block?
Now you want me to read this thing?
I'm gonna read it.
So this is
about 220.
There's 3 pieces in here, and for 3 pieces it's 100 calories. So basically they're about 30. We'll just give it 30, 35 calories a block, and you're trying to get 100 to 150. But that 100 to 150 per hour is generally it's including what you're taking in terms of food. And this, I'm going to kind of put this in the food, although it's kind of sports nutrition food. It could be the potatoes, it could be dates, it could be, some people do Crustables, Fig Newtons, and I would probably not do figs, I would probably stick with dates. But you're going to do probably 2 or 3 of these an hour. And then you also want to think about, well, what do you have in your water bottle? Are you going to have Gatorade? Are you going to dilute it? Are you going to have Powerade? Are you going to do Noon, that's for electrolytes. Are you going to put some other powdered thing into your water bottle and take that in, because those calories factor in too. So it's a combination of both the liquid calories plus the blocks, or you can do the gels. And the gels are typically 90 calories. So typically it's one every 45 minutes. Yeah. So you can either do this by, depending on your run, you can either figure out what you're going to be eating based on your mileage, like the mile markers, every 2 miles, every 3 miles, based on what your pace is, or you can determine it by what the time is. So kind of, that's what I do with a lot of my clients, is kind of work those 2 things together so that you don't have to have that guesswork and you want to take it with you. I did do a whole nother talk on hydration, so go to YouTube and look at the video on that one, because I don't really want to repeat all the stuff there. That'll be another 20 minutes. But I will tell you that if you've got the cramping and GI distress, you're probably going to have less of it now because it's starting to get cooler. But if that's happening to you and it's not going away, regardless of what you're eating, then you really do have to get your sweat rate testing done. I've had several clients that they just figured that they were getting old and this is all going to be the way it's supposed to be. We did some nutrition and that helped. We got we did the sweat rate test just from weighing yourself before and after and tracking how many fluids you take in for an hour run. And then several of them had gotten the Levelin testing done, which is basically a sweat and electrolyte, sodium and electrolyte testing, where you put a gauze pad on your arm. They send you this little kit, and you do that. You put that on your arm. They have you fill out some information, but it'll tell you exactly how many milligrams of sodium you sweat out per hour. For me, I only sweat out 600 milligrams an hour, but that's on the bike. If I go running, it's probably twice that. I have one client, and it wasn't one of anybody that's in the area. I've got one client who he sweats out 3,800 milligrams of sodium running per hour. That's a lot of sodium. So you can, if you know what the number is, then you know what you need to do the day before in terms of increasing the sodium load so that you actually get to the run prepared and not already in a depleted state. And then you also know, well, what do I need to do during my runs in order to take in that much? You don't need to take the whole 3,800 milligrams in if you're sweating that much out. You're basically trying to replace 70%, and that's the same thing with when you're running and you might be expending 700 calories an hour, but there's no way you're going to even try to be able to get 700 of those 70% of those calories in per hour either. And your goal is not to try to replicate just because you burn 700 calories an hour and you went for 3 hours, that means you get to eat 2,100 calories more that day. That's just not really how it works. Unfortunately, it just really doesn't work that way. So you're trying to just maintain the energy levels and actually really try to get the body to start burning its fat stores rather than needing to take in more calories. And the more real food and clean, the term clean food you eat, the less processed foods, the more efficient your body gets at burning calories as well. So it's a really, you want to start thinking about, well, what am I eating? Can I make better choices? Can I change one thing at a time and notice a difference? Because you want to give it a week to see what the difference is. Try one of your Friday, if your long run is on Saturday, Friday night, see if wheat pasta is going to be great. The next time try doing quinoa, and next time try doing rice. Next time do potatoes. And see, you're not changing the quantity, you're just changing that one item. Did it change the way you felt the next day? Does that make sense? And that's what you want to start paying attention to. Then with your runs too, start paying attention to some of the symptoms and when it starts happening. Are you waiting too long to start to rehydrate? Are you waiting too long to start taking in calories? These are all things that you want to start paying attention to, because once you're too far gone, it's hard to recover, and then you're just in a state of misery. And if you're running, if that happens at mile 12 and you're on an 18-mile training run, you're just not happy for 6 miles. And neither are the people that are with you, because they're trying to pull you along. And, the mind is a great thing that you can go further, but you're just not having that much fun. And thank God you've got your friends, because they're the only people that would get you to finish your 18-mile run. Does that make sense? So does anybody have any specific questions? Because I know I kind of went through that.
Occasionally when I run, I have like acid reflux.
Okay.
What is that a symptom of, and is there anything you can bring up?
So acid reflux, the problem with acid reflux is that there's no simple explanation for why it happens. Some people will say that you're not digesting things well, that you actually have low acid in the stomach. So the sphincter at the bottom of the esophagus isn't staying closed, so every time now that you're moving and running, it's basically just kind of splashing up. It could be that whatever you're eating for breakfast, or sometimes it's what you had the day before, that actually you have it's not agreeing with you, and it basically triggers that kind of sensitivity. It could be too high of an acidic diet in general, that once you start introducing movement, it can be a problem. It could be the way that you breathe. It could be that now that you're running, the digestion is slowed down. That's just a normal function of what happens when you start exercising, running being the most laborious of all the exercise in comparison to like swimming and
I've been running forever, and this is a recent thing.
well, and that could be something that's happening more because you're aging. And I hate to put this on, it's because you're getting older. But as we get older, we actually have less digestive juices. So the digestive enzymes may not be doing what they're supposed to be doing, because you might not have enough of them. So it might be changing the way you eat. It could be getting rid of liquids during your meals. It could be adding a digestive enzyme. It could be eating in a less stressed manner, where you could get away from it for a long time, but now it's kind of like, it's like the straw that broke the camel's back. Well, I only just did this. You've been getting away from it for a long time, but you kind of get closer and closer to kind of falling off the cliff. So now your body's like, okay, now I'm in an imbalance. This is really an annoyance to me, but when did it start happening, and are there other factors that are contributing to it? How do you fix it? There's several different ways of doing it. But I don't know which one would work for you, because there's literally like 10 of them. So I mentioned a few of them, and that might be something that,
It generally occurs when I do morning runs.
Okay.
So I think maybe coffee could set it off or something like that.
Well, coffee is acidic for some people, and some maybe it is the coffee. Maybe, the thing is that there's so many different variables to it. But if it's happening in the morning, it might be more related to what you had yesterday and later in the day, in the evening. So it's something that I can definitely take a look at. You can on this sheet here, you can set up a 15-minute session with me, and we can just talk about that and kind of go over what the options are. Does that make sense? Yeah. So, anybody else have any questions? Any? You have a question. Okay. I'm sorry. What role does beer play? Well, it is absolutely known as a carbohydrate. You know, but it's something where I probably wouldn't load with beer, but you have to look at it as, if you drink too much beer, then you're spiking the blood sugar too much. If you drink too much beer, then you're also going to get, you know, a little bit dehydrated too, but you'll probably get, you know, your body gets adapted to the amount you drink if it's a regular amount on a regular basis. But, you know, it's a lot of carbohydrates. So if you think about trying to limit the carbohydrates to a certain amount, the beer is actually pushing it over the edge. So when you're looking at a balanced meal, that's just liquid calories. And depending on the beer, it's 90 to 100, you know, 90 to 150 calories. Maybe there's some that are even higher than that. But you're adding that much, and that's all pure carbs to your meal. So if you're going to add beer, then you're going to have protein, fat, and greens, and not that much in terms of other carbohydrates to go with it, because that's your carbohydrate. Does that make sense? So it can be utilized, but I probably wouldn't do it all the time. No, vodka could not be a substitute for potatoes. Maybe once in a while. You know, I'm not saying never, because typically alcohol. Just think of alcohol as sugar. Sugar, you know, and that's a carbohydrate. So if you're going to drink more of your liquids or drink more of your carbohydrates, then you've got to eat less of the carbohydrates on the plate and have more protein, fat, and vegetables. Okay, so it's all about finding that balance. Does that make sense? So yes, you can have beer, but I just wouldn't have a lot of it. Anybody else have any questions? Well, if anybody has questions online too, you can call me find me at www.nutritioninmotion.net and schedule a 15-minute session if you've got questions, and then we'll see where you can start. Thank you all for being here, and talk to you soon.